Okie dokie. The one and only Ivan. We've almost finished. We are up to page 167. Here we go. Hang on, let me take the little mark out. Nervous. All day long, I knuckle walk around circles around my cage. I'm so nervous. I can't nap. I can't even eat. Well, not very much anyway. I'm ready to show Julia what I've made. It has to be Julia. She's an artist. Surely she'll truly look at my painting. She won't notice the smudges and the tears. She won't care if the pieces don't quite fit together. She'll see past all that. Surely Julia will see what I've imagined. I watch Ruby trudge solemnly through the 4 o'clock show and I wonder, what will happen if I fail? What if I can't make Julia understand? But of course, I know the answer. Nothing. Nothing will happen. Ruby will remain the main attraction at the Exit 8 Big Top Mall and Video Arcade, conveniently located off I-95, with shows at 2, 4 and 7, 365 days of a year, year after year after year. Showing Julia. It's time to show my work. The mall is silent except for Thelma, who is practicing a new phrase. Uh-oh. Julia is finishing her homework. George is sweeping outside. Mac has gone home for the night. I grab Knock Tag and carefully pull out the folder's papers. So many paintings, page after page, piece after piece of my giant puzzle. I pound on the glass and Julia glances over. Fingers trembling, I hold up one of my paintings. It's brown and green, a corner piece. Julia smiles. I display another picture, and then another, and then another, and then another, and another, each one a tiny part of the whole. Julia looks confused. But what is it? She asks. She shrugs. Doesn't matter. It's pretty just as it is. Oh, says Thelma. No, I think. No, it does matter. More paintings. George calls out to Julia. He's done for the night. Grab your backpack, he says, and hurry, it's late. Gotta go, Ivan, Julia says. Julia doesn't understand. I have to find the right pieces. I dig in the pile. They're here somewhere. I know they are. I find one, another one, another. I tried to fold 4 of them against the glass. Bob, I say, help me, hurry. Bob grabs the paintings with his teeth and drags them to me. One by one, I shove pictures through the window crack. Then they crumple and tear. There are too many pictures. My puzzle is too big. Careful, Ivan, Julia said. Those might be worth millions someday. You never know. She arranges the paintings in a neat stack. I suppose Mac's going to want to sell these at the gift shop. She still doesn't understand. I shove more out the hole and more, and all of them, one after the other. So Ivan's been painting, has he? George says as he puts on his coat. A lot, says Julia with a laugh. A whole lot. You're not taking all those home with you, are you? George asks. I mean, no offence to Ivan, but they're just blobs. Julia thumbs through the towering stack of paintings. They might not be blobs to Ivan. Let's leave those by the office, George suggested. Mac will want to sell them. Try selling them. Although, why anyone would pay $40 for finger paintings a 2-year-old could do, I don't know. I like Ivan's work, Julie says. He puts his feelings into them. He puts his hair into them, George says. Julia waves goodbye. Night, Ivan. Night, Bob. I press my nose against the glass and watch her walk away. All my work, all my planning wasted. I look at Ruby, sleeping soundly, and suddenly I know she'll never leave the Big Top Mall. She'll be here forever, just like Stella. Can't let Ruby be another one and only. I feel something dark and hot tighten in my chest. Chest beating. Often when visitors come to see me, they beat their hands against their puny chests, pretending to be me. They pound away soundlessly as the wet wings of a new butterfly. The chest beating of a mad gorilla is not something you ever want to hear, not even if you're wearing earplugs. A real chest beating sends the whole jungle running, as if the sky has broken open, as if men with guns are near. Angry. Thump. The sound, my sound, echoes through them all. Julia and George spin around. Julia drops her backpack. George drops his keys. The pile of pictures goes flying. Thump, thump, thump. I bounce off the walls. I streak and bellow, and I beat my chest. Bob Hines under not tag, his paws over his ears. I'm angry. At last, I have someone to protect. Puzzle pieces. After a long while, I grow quiet. I sit. It's hard work being angry. Julia looks at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. I'm panting. I'm a little out of shape. What the heck was that? George demands. Something's really wrong, Julia says. I've never seen Ivan act this way. He seems to be calm and get down, thank goodness, George says. Julia shakes her head. He's still upset, Dad. Look at his eyes. My pictures are scattered all over the floor like huge autumn leaves. What a mess, George says, sighing. Wish I hadn't bothered sleeping tonight. Do you think sleeping? Sweeping. Do you think Ivan's okay? Julia asks. Probably just a temper tantrum, George says. He reaches under a chair to retrieve a brown and red picture. Can't say I blame the guy, stuck in the tiny little cage all those years. Julia starts to answer, but then she freezes. She cocks her head. Dad, she whispers, come see this. I'm sure here's another Rembrandt, George says. Let's pick these up and get going, Jules. I'm exhausted. Dad, she says again, seriously, look at this. George follows her gaze. I see blobs, many, many blobs along with the occasional swirl. Please, can't we go home now? That's a H, Dad. Julia kneels down, straightening one picture, then another. There's a H, and here. She grabs more pictures. Put this one here, and I don't know, maybe that one. You have an E. George rubs his eyes. I hold my breath. Julia is running now. She picks out a picture, sets down another. It's like a puzzle, Dad. There is something. It's a word. Maybe words and a picture of something. A giant picture. Jules, George says. This is crazy. But he's looking at the floor too, wandering from picture to picture and scratching his head. H, Julia says. E-O. Home? Julia chews her lower lip. H-E-O. And that looks like an I? H-E-O-I. George writes in the air with his finger. I-E-O-H? Not the letter, an actual I. And that's a foot, or maybe a tree, and a trunk. Dad, I think it's trunk. Julia runs to the window. Ivan, she whispers, what did you make? I stare back. I cross my arms. This is taking much longer than I thought it would. Humans. Sometimes they make chimps look smart. Finally. Julia and George take the pictures to the ring, where there's room to see them all. An hour passes as I try to assemble my puzzle. Ruby's awake now, and she and Bob and I watch. Ivan, Ruby says, is that a picture of me? Yes, I say proudly. Where am I supposed to be? That's a zoo, Ruby. See the walls and the grass and the people looking at you? Ruby squints. Who are all those other elephants? You haven't met them yet. Them, I say, yet. It's a very nice zoo, Ruby says with an approving nod. Bob nudges me and with his cold nose. It is indeed. In the ring, Julia pumps her fist in the air. Yes, she cries. I told you, Dad. There it is. H-O-M-E, home. George gazes at the letters. He spins around to look at me. Maybe it's just a coincidence, Jules. You know, a once-in-a-trillion kind of thing. Like the old saying about the chimp and the typewriter. Give him long enough and he'll write a novel. I make a grumbling noise, as if a chimp could write a novel. Let me try again. I make a grumbling noise, as if a chimp could write a letter, let alone a book. Then, How do you explain the rest of it? Julia demands. The picture of Ruby in the zoo. How do you know it's a zoo? George asks. See the circle on the gate? There's a red giraffe in it. George squints and tilts his head. Are you sure that's a giraffe? I was thinking more along the lines of a deformed cat. It's the logo for the zoo, Dad. It's on all their signs. Explain that. George gives her a helpless smile. I can't begin to. I'm just saying there has to be an illogical explanation. Look how big this is. Julia puts the last piece of Ruby's right ear into place. It's huge. It is definitely large, George agrees. Julia watches me. She chews on her thumbnail. I see the question in her eyes. She turns back to the paintings and stares at them, looking, truly looking. A slow smile dawns on Julia's face. Dad, she says, I have an idea. A big idea. Julia races around the edge of the painting, her arms spread wide, billboard big. I'm not following you. I think this is meant to be on a billboard. That's what Ivan wants. George crosses his arms over his chest. What Ivan wants, he repeats slowly, and you know this because you two have been chatting? Because I'm an artist and he's an artist. Uh-huh, says George. Julie clasps her hands together. Come on, Dad, I'm begging you. George shakes his head. Nope, I'm not doing that. No, no billboard, no way. I'll get the ladder, Julia says. You get the glue. I know it's dark out, but the billboard's lit. Mac will fire me, Jules. Julie considers. Think of the publicity, Dad. Everybody would know about Ruby. You want me to put up a sign that shows Ruby in a zoo with the word home on it in giant letters? George gestures towards my pictures. A sign, incidentally, that just happens to be made by a gorilla? Exactly. And you want me to do it without Mac's permission? George asks. Exactly. No, George says. No way. Julie goes to the edge of the ring, careful not to step on any of my paintings. She picks up some Mac's claw stick. She walks back and hands it to her father. George runs his finger along the blade. She's just a baby, Dad. Don't you want to help her? But how would it help, Jules? Even if lots of people see Ivan's sign, it doesn't mean anything's going to change. I'm not exactly sure yet. Julie shakes her head. Maybe people will see the sign and they'll know this isn't where Ruby belongs. Maybe they'll want to help too. George sighs. He looks at Ruby. She waves her trunk. It's a matter of principle, Dad. Principal. L-E, George corrects. Dad, Julia said softly. What if Ruby ends up like Stella? George looks at me, at Ruby, at Julia. He drops the claw stick. The ladder, he said quietly, is in the storage locker. The next morning, I watch Mac's car slam to a halt in the parking lot. He leaps out. He stares at the billboard. His jaw is open. He doesn't move for a long time. Mad human. A mad gorilla is loud, but a mad human can be loud too, especially when he's throwing chairs and turning over tables and breaking the cotton candy machine. Oh dear. It's the end of that little bit.